Chief Business Officer here at Bittrex Global and the host of our video AMA today. And we are featuring Alien Worlds. And our guest today is Saro McKenna. She is the CEO and co-founder of Alien Worlds. So Saro, thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Chris. It's great to be here with you guys.
Yeah,
I've been a longtime fan of Bittrex, so it was
good.
great when we got Trillium on your exchange, and it's great to be with you now.
Fantastic. Well, we're excited about the partnership, and we're really excited to list you guys. And I think we're all excited here today to learn more about the Trillium token, which has a ticker symbol of TLM on Bittrex Global for anyone looking to trade it. It's my little plug for getting access to the market. So for our AMAs today, stands for Ask Me Anything, for those who are not by now familiar with that term, we do source questions from our community as well as the broader crypto community. So I've got a list of questions here that I wanted to run through, but as we talked about before the show, definitely dive in and go any direction you want in terms of making sure that our audience is getting the information that you want to make sure that they know about Alien Worlds and the TLM token.
Sure, sounds perfect.
Okay, so to kick things off, we always like to ask the first question related to your origin story in crypto. So, how did you get into crypto? When did you buy your first Bitcoin, and what led you to get involved with Alien Worlds and/or uh,
The
really out
company,
this thing?
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. That's it's such an interesting question to ask everyone in crypto, how they kind of found their way to this space, and it's such a kind of amazing time, both in the history of blockchain technology and also blockchain gaming and the metaverse. I think the kind of community that has coalesced around these projects is really unique and wonderful, and we'll probably look back in years to come at kind of what a golden age for blockchain it's been, because that origin story and asking how do people find blockchain very much speaks to the type of, I guess, personality type, or the types of people that are interested in this kind of emerging and actually in some ways both abstract but also highly practical kind of form of technology that we're all building together right now. Yeah, so my story was that I was in corporate finance. I was in M&A, and other types of corporate finance, right around the time actually of the credit crisis. And I think I saw, which was around the time also that Bitcoin was beginning to be created, that peer-to-peer technology. I didn't, unfortunately, I wasn't that early an adopter, but I was certainly aware of the limitations of, I guess you could say, the world of traditional finance. It certainly has its strengths in some ways. I think it is able to price value and risk in some situations, but I think in others it doesn't, and is possibly kind of myopic to that. So I was interested in how else systems could be organized, whether decentralized systems could work, and also security and those types of topics. So I began to, some of my friends were working in crypto and blockchain projects, and I began to sort of find out more about what they were doing. And then I got involved in a project called EOS DAC, which was a decentralized autonomous community that was also a block producer on the EOS blockchain at that time. And that was where I met my co-founders, and together we were taking forward this vision of building DACs, as we called them at the time, which is the same thing as a DAO, which was eventually how we came into Alien Worlds. The specific kind of vision behind Alien Worlds was that we had been building DAOs, and we had built a product that allowed anyone to create their own tokenized DAO, and some groups did use that software to do that. But it was a bit of a hard kind of educational piece to get brand new users or people who were already kind of running small companies or even other types of projects to think of putting their existing company or project into a DAO or making it into a DAO. That was kind of a leap of the imagination too far, and it felt perhaps too risky for them. And so I think we began to think, well, what would be a sort of an easier way for people to wrap their heads around this? And we thought, well, if we put DAOs into a game, that would be an easier way for people to start to use and even to sort of break this technology, right? Because you have to have the mindset that failure is okay in order to really engage with a lot of these new technologies and new ways of organizing people socially. So, putting DAOs into a game was kind of part of the Alien World story, but also NFTs, putting NFTs into a single economy that was also governed by a fungible token was sort of the foundational idea, was bringing DAOs and NFTs into a single economy, bringing people together to compete for the scarce resource.
Thank you for that overview and the origin story and all of that. It's always really interesting to hear how people moved into this space, and especially how they came up with the idea and decided to create something new. And the NFT, the concept of putting an NFT and um,
And
and the
DAOs into, yeah.
is really interesting. I haven't heard of anyone else doing that, and I'm not sure if they are. But I work at a cryptocurrency exchange, so I don't get a lot of time to review every project that's out there. But it sounds really innovative.
Yeah, we are actually the only project that I'm aware of in which DAOs are a actual gaming component as opposed to just a way of governing part of the project. So we have this concept of DAOs in competition with each other, which is basically like teams in competition, but organized as DAOs. So yeah, I think that that is novel. I think 2022 will probably be the year of the DAO, so we might start to see that arising more and more. But yeah, we're pretty forward looking in the sense that we've got these millions of users. So we're kind of either the first or second largest blockchain game now by users, depending on what metric you look at. Um, and we also have really battle tested DAO code. So we've been building this type of code for years now, including in the sort of previous incarnation. So yeah, I think we feel pretty well positioned to move DAOs into to sort of foreground DAOs as actual gaming components rather than just as a way of organizing part of the project.
It's very interesting. And um, how do I play Alien Worlds?
Yes, so you go to play.alienworlds.io. You credentialize with a Wax account, a Wax Cloud wallet if you're playing the mining game, or with MetaMask, connecting in with a Binance Smart Chain wallet if you're playing the missions game.
Mhm.
Um, you can also run to be a candidate on the Planet DAOs, which are these six DAOs that are in competition with each other for the scarce resource. And that's the initial functionality that we have in flight right now, and that has gained all this traction so far. The next piece that we're rolling out will be each of these Planet DAOs, and that's coming this year. So currently, playing Alien Worlds involves using the NFTs. So we are in within our metaverse, NFTs are utility NFTs. They're not sort of primarily collectibles NFTs. And so they have attributes that are read by the gaming smart contract. So you play them in the way that you might play, cards or other types of in other games, you might play like a card that has attributes and powers. Here, you're playing your NFTs. So you use land, which either you own or you can rent from other landowners, and you use a tool that either we have given you, we give you a basic one, or you can buy uh, tools that suit different strategies. And that's how you begin to play the mining game, which is how you earn Trillium and later NFTs, and then using that Trillium to stake to the planets, which gives you governance power on those planets. And that's kind of the big competitive strategic game as part of teams.
Very cool. Very cool. I have to actually take time this weekend and see if I can't play. So when I'm not working, I don't get a lot of time to play video games, but I'm excited to
You
jump
can
into
play it in the background.
it.
We have
Okay.
some of our team members actually kind of play it for 15 hours a day. They're just kind of in the background.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, sure. But I meant like actively get involved and do it. So yeah, set it and forget it would be something that I would love to do as well. So can you tell us a little bit about the background of the Alien Worlds team, from the developers to the designers?
Yeah, absolutely. So we came out of a background of building DACs, and in particular, sort of using block production rewards in order to seed a DAC. So those were the three founders were Rob Allen, Michael Yates, and I. We first kind of got together in EOSTAC, this decentralized autonomous community that was a block producer. So Rob comes from a technology background and also had studied gaming mechanics in detail across different types of games and different gaming loops and what makes asynchronous games interesting. How does the strategy work? How does the balancing work? So he was putting together those kind of narrative elements, game balancing elements, the NFTs. Um, One of the really important things in NFTs is sort of calibrating the scarcity across various tranches of the NFTs. And in our case, because the NFTs are utility NFTs, they also have to have certain powers, and all of that needs to fit into a narrative context. So that's what he was designing. And, I think one of the things that's been quite inspiring about the way that the NFTs work is that that has then allowed the community to create their own NFTs, kind of in some cases modeled on how we sort of laid out the various rarity levels and the different types of powers. But in some cases, people have created different types of NFTs with, different rarities and different powers. That's one of the really nice things about NFTs on Wax is that you can kind of just create them yourself with very low costs. There's lots of NFT creators that help people to do that, and those are all NFTs that are then in the metaverse. So yeah, Rob's design of the NFTs was kind of both our what we call the Genesis NFTs, but also kind of a way of inspiring the rest of the community or anybody who wants to create their own utility NFTs. And then Michael was doing all of the, blockchain construction, the design of the smart contracts, and thinking through um, how this economy would work. So, we have a play to earn mechanic. That's what the mining game is. It's where you perform the mining action using these NFTs, and you get Trillium and later NFT rewards as well. But there's also a closed loop mechanic in there. That's sort of like a faucet out, right? That's a play to earn mechanic. But the closed loop mechanic is where people stake back into the planet DAOs, which have treasuries of Trillium and control those treasuries through DAO multi-sig permission systems. And then that's a reason why people are then using Trillium. And there's a number of other ways within the metaverse that Trillium gets used. So Michael was kind of both designing the construction of that, but then also implementing that through smart contracts. And then we had other team members creating the design of the NFTs and then of course the user interface and so on. So that was and then I come from, as I mentioned, a corporate finance background. I'd studied philosophy, politics, and economics at university, and so was also thinking through some of the economic elements, but then also the corporate and legal and team. We've grown from being a team, I guess, of 4 to now being a team of about 75, and we're growing quickly. So there's been quite a lot of company growth and development too. So yeah, those were our backgrounds. And then along the way, I think one of the kind of really like heartwarming aspects of how we've grown is that our community is so lovely. They're so amazing, and they're so into the metaverse, and they love contributing to it. And I mean, many of them understand it far better than I do, frankly. They've gone deep into the NFTs and deep also into the mechanics and creating new mechanics and getting together in sub communities and so on. And so over time, one of the ways that we grew the team was just by hiring community members who were up day and night in the Discord. And we thought, well, we should start paying you and let you be a moderator. So yeah, the team has also grown. There was a layer of growth that happened very organically too, which has been really great for the culture within the team.
And then looking forward now, I know you mentioned you've got something coming pretty soon, 2022, but can you walk us through Alien World's team roadmap for 2022 and anything you want to mention beyond that, as well as maybe some upcoming milestones in particular?
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned, that we're the first or second largest blockchain game by users, and I think that's been a testament to this mining functionality that we've developed, where people play a particular strategy using NFTs, but also to the community that's been formed around that. And those are communities that share some kind of a collective interest. So, for example, landowners have gotten together in collectives. People have gotten together candidates on Planet DAOs, other communities that just share a particular interest or want to pursue a particular strategy. They have their own Telegram and Discord channels, for example. They're self-organizing into these collectives. And what that's in anticipation of is the opening of our planetary DAOs. So these are DAOs, so that's a smart contract with a series of multi-sig permissions on it that have a treasury, and they have a treasury of Trillium, so which is our token, and that is, I mean, sizable amount of economic value is residing at the level of these DAOs. So when we say we're a decentralized game, and that's kind of very much true objectively in the sense that a lot of the value in the system is actually residing at a level that is, totally outside of my control. For example, it's sitting in these smart contracts that are governed by these DAO permissions. So the kind of big strategic milestone that will be coming out of the DAOs is releasing them to community governance. So um, which is really opening up the game around the DAOs. So I mentioned that people are already candidates on the DAOs. That means that they're running, each DAO will have 5 custodians every week, and those custodians get to vote on any transaction or action on those smart contracts, on that Planet DAO smart contracts, which can include, by the way, holding, Trillium, the fungible token, but also NFTs. So we have some of the Planet DAOs are already developing strategies of what types of NFTs they'd like to either create or hold. Including NFTs that could represent other real world objects and assets like silver, for example. So we have one group that is really interested in having a treasury that includes, different types of NFTs, and figuring out what their treasury strategy will be around that. So when the DAOs are opened to first elections and then also the actual governance by the custodians, that means that they'll then be able to start spending those treasuries for worker proposals and anything else that they want to support. And that's really where the DAOs come to life. And it's also, a way in which the DAOs so they're competing. So the more one DAO has staked to it, so the more Trillium that it has staked to it, the more inflation it gets every day. The bigger it is, and the more inflation it gets. So this is why they're in competition with each other, and also why groups can sort of take over other DAOs. So if if a group of players all wants to stake their Trillium to a particular DAO, they might then be able to get control of that DAO. And so this is the competitive dynamic. So this is being developed right now. We expect in the first half of this year to be able to roll out those DAOs, and that's where people will be able to get involved in a kind of more organized way than they have so far. I mean, there's the green shoots of a lot of self-organization, but that will be, like a specific and formal way that they can get involved. We also have other what we think of as games. So Alien Worlds is both a platform or a metaverse. So this involves all of the tokenomics, the fungible token, the NFTs, the DAOs themselves. So that's the sort of metaversal component. But it's also a series of games. And we as Dakoko, the founders of the project, are creating some of those games, and other people are creating some of those games too. Anyone's free to create games in the metaverse that use Trillium, the fungible token. So we also have a roadmap of releasing further games, which are not really baked into the infrastructure of the metaverse or inflation, but they're particular gaming loops that people can play and participate in. So those include a fighting game and a Thunderdome and quests. And additionally, these games also include gaming actions that happen off of the Wax blockchain or the BSC blockchain or the Ethereum blockchain, which are the 3 blockchains that we primarily have gaming logic on. These can include gaming actions that happen in other gaming environments, such as Minecraft. So we've built a technical bridge into Minecraft where people can play within Minecraft, so do actions within Minecraft that are recognized by our smart contracts and that understand who that person is, so that credentializes their blockchain account into our gaming smart contracts. And so the actual opening up of those Minecraft servers for people to use will be part of our roadmap in the first half of this year as well. Also open sourcing that code so that anyone can run their own Minecraft server to play Alien Worlds. And that will be, there's a, continued, you can probably discern a bit of a theme here, which is sort of technical interoperability being a key way that we acquire users and build out the metaverse. So we're kind of known for being a technically sort of preeminent team. That was kind of our always what our background was in building out oop, blockchain tech. And I gone off. Sorry, my my computer kind of went down. Um, so yeah, so building out that interoperability is a huge part of the roadmap. So the Minecraft implementation being one of the first, but there's other um, games like that that run in a decentralized way on servers, for example, and we're looking into and analyzing, those different environments for building interoperability too. Similarly, actually, other blockchains altogether. So we were the first blockchain game to be on three chains, and looking into future roadmap of other chains to build onto. So that's really the roadmap for this year. It's the opening up of the 6 planet DAOs. It's the implementation of some of these smaller gaming loops like the fighting game and questing, and actually and then extending the metaverse into other gaming environments and other chains.
So GameFi and the metaverse are hot topics right now, with a wide range of offerings for players. And can you tell us what makes Alien Worlds unique from other gaming competitors? I think you've mentioned just now a ton of stuff. You just went deep and broad across a lot of areas that sound really unique to me. But if you could summarize what's made Alien Worlds the largest blockchain game by users, I think that'd be really interesting to hear.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, to be honest, at this point in the trajectory of blockchain gaming, all of the games are relatively unique, or at least all of the large ones. I mean, there are now a lot of Me Too propositions. In fact, I have now seen other smaller games that have a concept of a planet DAO, which is kind of funny to see. But yeah, all of the big games are relatively unique because we're all kind of trailblazing different elements of what we're building out. But I suppose nobody has yet put DAOs into competition with each other within a single economy. And so I guess what that really means is that putting teams into competition within a single economy hasn't really been um, built into the core of other large blockchain games. That has been an emergent property of some of the other games, like Axie, for example. Has guilds that have been very successful, and that has taken off and then subsequently sort of been built out by the project team as a proposition. But I think it started initially actually as something that users were just doing because they needed to gain access to the right tools. So yeah, I think that kind of team element is something that we believe is really why people are interested in being part of a metaverse in the first place, right? There's different motivations. One is the play to earn element, but I think people coming together and being social within these gaming environments is a key element to why people are spending time in these environments. So that's why we wanted to really build team gaming into the core of what we're building. So that would, I suppose, be one of the relatively unique elements. I suppose another aspect is sort of emphasizing competition within an economy. So other metaverses and blockchain games have conceived of themselves very much as being like spatial environments. So you kind of go into them and you walk around and you might create a tool or a game using NFTs in one sort of district, and then you might go to another district and do something else there. This is why, in the end, VR and AR become very important to those types of games and metaverses because enriching the spatial experience is a big part of how they improve the gaming experience, right? Because it's primarily spatial, so therefore building out a more absorbing spatial experience is a way of progressing the development of that product. In our case, we don't really conceive of the metaverse primarily as a sort of environment in that sense, or at least not a spatial or physical environment. If it is an environment, we conceive of it as being an economic environment, a place where people are competing for various things, NFTs, the token, their own DAO tokens, and competing, airdropping, and doing other mechanisms and dynamics with those tokens. So, yeah, I think we really have kind of a metaverse is an abstraction of reality in some way. It's a space, it's a digital space where people do things, but you don't necessarily have to think of that space in such a literal sense as like literally trying to build out the world digitally. It's a heavy lift to do that, and also whatever you build is likely to be obsolete fairly quickly or to look old quite quickly. Whereas if what you abstract into a metaverse environment is particular elements that are, for example, well suited to blockchain technology, like assets, like tokens, and then you create mechanisms for people to compete for those, that creates a really nice boundary as well to the space. So, in our sense, the metaverse is bounded. If it's a space, it's bounded by everything that Trillium is touching, everything you can use Trillium for or compete in order to get Trillium. So, I think that's a fairly unique element to our game, is that we're not emphasizing a build out of the spatial world. We're emphasizing social relationships, competitive relationships within an economy, as being really what the game is about. And then the final thing I would mention is the blockchain construction. So we're built on three chains, fully interoperable with those three chains, and now looking at other gaming environments. I haven't seen, like Minecraft, and have already built out that bridge. I haven't seen other games be. I mean, there's many blockchain games that are built on two chains, for example, but I think we were the first to see the potential and the reason why you would want to sort of bother to go through all of the work of being interoperable between more chains than that.
Um, I've got more questions here from our community members, so I'll just read it exactly how as it's come in, which
Sure.
is one of our community members asked, "I've read that you are a member of the BGA Blockchain Game Alliance. Can you tell us what other big companies are members here, and what is the role of this partnership? Can you tell us about the dynamic of the alliance? Is it all newer companies, or are there traditional players in the video game space involved as well?"
Yeah, the BGA has been a really great sort of catalyst for bringing both more established blockchain games, which frankly is only a few years anyway, and then newer entrants into the space. We have events, presentations, um, also, like in conferences, physical conferences, sometimes the BGA will like facilitate people, different projects going, or have an area where they're all there. The BGA, I think, also provides some legal support, especially to newer projects. We never use that, but my understanding is that's really useful for kind of newer projects to be able to sense check like their terms and conditions, for example, through a lawyer and so on. So yeah, I mean, you can go onto their website. I think most of the large kind of games, and also some of the directories and ranking sites like DApp Radar, and so on are there. Animoca Brands is a member, and of course, Animoca is one of our supporters, Alien Worlds, and also has been a real, has been one of the driving forces of innovation in the kind of NFT space in the last couple of years. So they're there. Yeah, it's been a really great. It's chaired by Sebastian Bourget of Sandbox, the Sandbox, which is such a successful example of a metaverse and a blockchain game. So I think it's been a positive place for bringing the values of decentralization into gaming, which has obviously taken off in a big way in the last couple of years, and it seems fair set to really disrupt traditional gaming.
Let's talk about the NFTs in the Alien World ecosystem. So, one of our audience members asked, "What exactly are landowner NFTs? Landowner offered NFTs. How do these non fungible tokens work, and what role do they play in the Alien World's platform? How will both landowners and miners benefit from them?"
This is such this is a really fun story in a way. Well, I think it's fun. Maybe I'm a geek, but so we proposed this concept of the landowner NFT in our white paper and our technical blueprint, and um, it was conceived of as being, a tool that we would provide, or a way for landowners. I mentioned that it's quite easy for people to make NFTs, on the Wax blockchain and with the atomic asset standard, which is how NFTs on Wax are built. And so we had a concept to create a way for landowners to offer their own NFTs, which would v- produce variables on the mining rewards that miners get when they mine on a landowner's land. This kind of, I guess, in theory, is still part of the roadmap. But what ended up happening was that a very enterprising member of the community read this in our blueprint and decided just to offer it themselves straight away. And so that's what's ended up happening. There's a company, Alien World's Butler, which is not part of Dakoko, that you can go to, and they will facilitate. If you're a landowner, they'll facilitate creating an NFT that then you can use as an extra promotion or reward to entice people to mine on your land. This is a really active area of competition within the metaverse right now is landowners trying to undercut each other, or just to offer extra incentives or other reasons why miners might want to mine on their land. So within the metaverse, if you own a land NFT and somebody comes to mine on your land, then you can take a commission, a little cut of their mining reward, and that's configurable. You can make it 0%, you can make it up to 20%. Um, so landowners are in kind of competition with each other to try and get people onto their land. So both the level of commission that they set, something that they use to compete, but also other things. So the landowner NFTs are already out there. If you're a landowner, you can get them made and get them also dropped on miners on your land, in like specific according to specific parameters and for like time limited campaigns. Um, Over time, we also have a land roadmap in which land mining rewards will be subject to a decay or some kind of modification that then you have to top up. So if you're a landowner, you'll have to keep topping up your land with various variables in order to stay fully competitive with other landowners on your planet or across the metaverse. So we are still building out a land roadmap, but the landowner NFTs in particular are a great example of the community getting there first, quite frankly, and offering something even quicker than we could. So.
All right, another question was around your choice of blockchain. This one was curious to me as well. I'm familiar with Wax, the worldwide asset exchange, I believe.
Yeah.
But one of our community members said, I don't really know much about the Wax blockchain. Can you tell us more about this blockchain and why you decided to work with it? Particularly some of the advantages that Wax provides and how it fits in with the Alien Worlds plans. And then I would personally like to tack onto that. Which ecosystems are you considering expanding into? I know you're on 3 now. Are you thinking about going to 4 or 5, etc.?
Yeah. So, so we really appreciate the code base that Wax runs. It's EOS.io, which powers a number of delegated proof of stake chains. Um, and it's the way that you can especially configure multi-sigs at kind of protocol level is really useful when you're building something like DAOs, because what DAOs are is a way of giving permissions to an account, and you can set thresholds. So when we build a DAO, we build custodians or counselors who get elected to sign transactions on that account, and you can set the threshold. So you might need a majority of custodians to sign particular types of transactions, but you might even need a supermajority or even 100% of custodians to approve other types of transactions. So it's useful for being able to build DAOs that are extremely you can design them in quite a fine way, and also design the election mechanic in a very dynamic way. So like one of the really important things to consider around DAOs is security, especially if you want them to grow to a meaningful size where they have treasuries that are worth taking over or that are worth gaming or worth exploiting or hacking. So, because once they're autonomous, the A in DAO is autonomous. That means that they've been fully released into their own native governance, and the creators or don't can't control them anymore. So if you're building something that could eventually have significant value tied up in it, and the intention is that it would be fully autonomous, it has to have security mechanisms built right into the DAO itself. So in our case, we give a lot of and have especially in the past when we were first designing these things, given a lot of thought about how you create really secure DAOs. And one of the ways of doing that is to have these multi-sig permissions with various thresholds for different types of actions and transactions on the smart contracts. But another is this election mechanism that's very dynamic, where the counselors get elected, in our case, every week. But they can be, you can configure that to be every day, for example. And the reason why you might want, I mean, we in the end thought, landed on a week by the way, having battle tested it and worked within DAOs that had differing periodicities of the elections, I think that a week is a good kind of middle ground. But the reason why it needs to be, to many people, that seems quite short, right? Because we're used to like year-long terms for people who are governing things. The reason why you want a short election period is because, or custodianship period, is because during that week, those counselors do have control over the DAO and could, for example, drain funds and so on if there aren't other safeguards in place. So you want the voters to be able to vote those people out in a timely way, so that when proposals go into the DAO, then there's also the opportunity for the token holders to then vote those custodians out before they can do too much damage. So these are the types of things that you can actually build into, like, sort of right into the code of the DAOs in a really clean way using the code base that we work with on Wax. Additionally, Wax was a good chain for NFTs. So it's kind of like an EOS.io chain that was very kind of positioned for NFTs. And so because we knew that NFTs were going to be a big part of the metaverse that we were building, that was a good place to be. And also, a lot of our pre-existing community had followed us there, so we knew lots of people. They knew us, and that's ended up being, I think, really significant. And the traction that we were able to kind of build was that we had a core group of, a few thousand people who could see exactly where we were going with this, and then that really helps to begin to foment like buzz, and then to build a community, which thankfully did happen in our case. um, and then the other blockchains, of course, that were on are Ethereum and BSC. So Ethereum, really important for the token to be on Ethereum. Probably most people watching this AMA don't need to be convinced of that. I mean, by the way, I would say that Wax is also a very secure chain for a token to be on, but it probably is less known for that. And so if what you're trying to do is to, you know, give people easy confidence in the sort of security and immutability of their assets, Ethereum's a nice place to be. Um, Although, of course, expensive and difficult to actually run gaming logic on, which was what many of the games that were trying to run their game on Ethereum found. And of course, in the end, they had to build secondary chains to actually run their gaming logic on. So we were lucky that we came to the party at the point at which it was already clear that you couldn't really build anything that you needed to transact regularly on Ethereum. So we already, built our gaming logic on Wax. And then BSC, because you can reach a different base of users there primarily. Useful chain to be on if you're trying to, show a different part of the world and a different, base of users all about NFTs and blockchain gaming. So we have our missions functionality on BSC. And yes, we are actively looking at other chains. All the usual suspects, that you'd expect. I think, there's many considerations around that. The development time is so long, and also the security considerations around putting a part of the metaverse and therefore the token being interoperable onto different chains are so, important to build in a thoughtful way that um, we don't want to start down a path that ends up, by the time it's coming to market, being, the wrong choice. So we are, yeah, we're looking at, two or three other chains to build further logic onto. Um, but I think also the other gaming environments are probably just as important as that, and also a little bit lighter in some ways to build out. So, for example, the Minecraft and other server-based environments. Um, I mean, importantly, also, we run exclusively on public blockchains at the moment. It's advantageous in many ways to have a proprietary chain that you run certain actions on, and so that's also part of our roadmap, and something that we're implementing is moving some of our transactions and actions onto our own chain, which then allows for scalability in a sort of different way than when you're kind of only running on public blockchains like Wax.
And as a follow up to that question, thank you for that answer, by the way. We received a question around Wax's charitable side. So, specifically, the question was Wax offsets carbon usage with planting of one tree by the National Forest Foundation for every $1 in NFT value for those NFTs. So far, do you know how many total trees have been planted by Wax and the Forest Foundation in this program through Alien Worlds?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm sorry. It's actually not something I'm super aware of, this particular tree planting thing. But possibly the reason why I'm not super aware of it is because I think possibly a more important thing to talk about in relation to kind of energy consumption, and I mean, because tree planting is a little bit of a cosmetic thing, isn't it? It's not even clear necessarily that it's always kind of net positive in every way. But what we know is good is for blockchain technology to use as little energy as possible. So, in comparison to Bitcoin, for example, Wax uses a tenth of a percent of the energy consumption of Bitcoin, and Ethereum is about a quarter of that, and so it's sort of a tenth of a percent versus Ethereum. So if Bitcoin is 100, then Ethereum's 26%, and Wax is 0.01% in terms of energy consumption of actually, you know, achieving consensus and validating blocks on those chains. Um, you know, Bitcoin's consensus mechanism was built in the way that it was without necessarily scalability, or, you know, imagining the transactional volume and so on, and the prices that would be achieved, and therefore the amount of competition that there would be for that. But the subsequent chains that have come since then don't use that technology. So Wax uses a delegated proof of stake um, consensus method, and this just doesn't use much more energy than the computer that I'm on right now, for a single node. And so, yes, I mean, I think that's really the main story around kind of climate and carbon in relation to our metaverse, and the way that we've chosen to build out is that just by design, the amount of carbon emissions are extremely low versus, for example, Ethereum, and even more so versus Bitcoin. So yeah, possibly a slightly more fundamental um, thing is to look at the primary energy consumption rather than planting trees. And on that front, I think that we've tried to be as thoughtful and just building on kind of newer chains that just don't use energy in the way that the previous chains did.
And the next question here, I think we've covered it a lot, but it is from the community, so I did want to still ask it, which is bringing things back up to the 30,000 foot level. For someone new to NFTs and crypto in general, how can someone most easily interact with your platform? Are there special skills needed, or is the learning curve pretty high? I mean, it sounds like getting access to Trillium requires a MetaMask account to be able to participate in play to earn, and then you've got access to the exchange as well in order to liquidate the token. But how would you answer that question?
Yeah, so actually, I think one of the reasons why we've gained the traction that we have is because the barriers to entry, like the skills that a player needs, are really, really low. So actually, just to do the mining action, all you need is to go to play.alienworlds.io and then create a Wax Cloud wallet, which is just an email and password. And then that gives, you don't need to have any tokens in a wallet. So the Wax Cloud wallet itself gives you the resources that you need to start playing, the computing resources that you'd otherwise get by having tokens in a wallet. So you don't need to have any Ethereum or any token, or any Wax or any token in a wallet to start playing. Um, to play the missions game on BSC, you do need to credentialize with MetaMask and have a little bit of some crypto in your wallet. But to start with the mining game, you don't need anything at all. And that was kind of, I think, an important part of how we decided to kind of construct the game, was that people actually got given what they needed to start. So I would say that it's actually pretty easy onboarding. All blockchain tech is still in its relatively early stages and is still a little bit buggy, honestly. So you will get error messages sometimes, or you will get things that don't quite go right, where you thought that you had a mining reward, but it's not showing up in the user interface. This is actually, I find, often a great time when people come together. So then you come into the Discord channel or the Telegram channel and ask a question. Somebody nice will answer your question. This is already how you start to meet people and begin the further journey into the metaverse, right? Which goes beyond just kind of mining, which is where you begin to meet people and figure out a community that you want to be part of, maybe an event that you want to go to, a mining event, or a Twitch stream that you want to be part of, where they might be giving away NFT rewards. There's lots of channels in our Discord. It's a very large Discord channel, lots of different languages. People make friends all the time in there, and I think that's a really great way. Obviously, you can just sort of do the mining game, but you can also, or the missions game, but you can also run to be a counselor. And, as you start to get into that type of level of engagement, normally you start to connect up with other people. And I think being in the Telegram and Discord is a great way of doing that. So, um, but I will also say, there's a real diversity of people in the metaverse. There's introverts, extroverts. You don't really have to, a lot of real techies, and also people who aren't particularly technical. So, um, I think you can find, your tribe within the metaverse, and just, beginning to chat a little bit in those different forums helps you to find those people. So that's a great way to kind of progress beyond mining or missions.
And I think that's a good segue into our next question in terms of accessibility and barriers to entry. Are there any plans to expand Alien Worlds into mobile gaming, specifically a mobile app development path?
Yeah, so actually, we did release the web version of the game that is mobile friendly. So people are playing on mobile all over the world, and in fact, a large proportion of our users are playing on mobile. I don't think we have a plan to build out something that would have to go through, one of the app stores as such. But but yes, the game is fully mobile friendly, and lots of people are playing Alien Worlds on their mobiles.
All right, well, that's good to hear. And a little bit of a specific question about future plans, but one of our community members has asked, when will we be able to play the first version of player versus player?
So, in this kind of team DAO way that we're building out the metaverse, player versus player, I think, is primarily happening as teams. And so I think that will happen as part of the DAO implementation. There are also some team events that are happening in the metaverse. Good Vibes Mining runs one. There's other community groups that run events where people are being pitted against each other in team formations. Um, so the fighting game will be a player versus player game. We will not be building like live sort of synchronous games. So this will still be a turn-based game, but the fighting game is sort of modeled in that way, and that will be coming out later in 2022, all going well. The DAOs also will, one of the key kind of propositions around the DAOs are that they um, produce their own games, and that's already happening. So the community groups are already producing their own games. And so I very much expect that the DAOs will be using our smart contracts and potentially modifying them to offer their own games into the metaverse. And some of those may, um, like have elements like that built into them.
And for our final question, what is the best way that the community can get involved in Alien Worlds? I think I know the answer to that, but
Yeah.
what on ramp would you suggest for a first time user?
Just play.alienworlds.io. Start, selecting your NFTs. We'll give you NFTs to start. You can select which ones you want. If you want to change your strategy, you can go and get them. Um, that's really the best way to start. And then to start meeting other players, and then, possibly entering into this strategic dimension around the DAOs. That's in our Telegram and Discord channels, and other channels that you'll find as you start to investigate Telegram and Discord. So those would be the three ways: play.alienworlds.io and our Telegram and Discord channels.
Well, thank you, Saro, for joining us in this AMA today. I don't have any other questions. We learned a
Thanks so much,
lot
Ryan.
more about Alien Worlds and the TLM token, which of course is available on Bittrex Global. We're really excited about partnering, and it sounds like you guys have an incredible roadmap from here on out. And congratulations on all the adoption and success to date. It really is impressive, and you guys are doing amazing work in driving adoption of this industry for the masses and making it fun along the way. So, if there's anything else you wanted to mention that we didn't cover, by all means, that would be the time.
No, that's all good. Thanks, Chris. I think we covered all of our major elements, and yeah, we've been really excited to be partnering with Bittrex. You guys are some of the consummate pros in this space, so yeah, I really appreciate working with you guys.
Well, I don't know anything about gaming. I'm learning a ton just by listening to you. But I do know about exchanges. So if you ever have questions for me on how to run a cryptocurrency exchange, you come my way.
Will
And
do. Thank
all
you.
right. If our viewers want to learn more about Alien Worlds, please go to www.alienworlds.io. That's ALIENWORLDS.io. Thank you again, Sarah, and please extend our thanks to the rest of the Alien Worlds team.
Thanks, Chris.